Hey, Scott Jordan here for Jancast number 207 for Thursday, February 19th, 2026. Time's flying by. It's almost spring. So I did something a little bit different. As you guys know, I like using AI for various things, product development, formulas, uh, sales techniques, a bunch of stuff. We do the Sunday Sales Blast and cover a lot of AI stuff there. So I decided I'd use AI this time to come up with a new subject for us to cover on Jancast. And, we've been doing this for 20 plus years, 207 shows so far. It's probably a little bit more than that if we count some of the early video ones. So I fed into ChatGPT all of the past Jancast shows and said, suggest something that we should cover that we haven't so far, but relates to the current situation with the cleaning industry. So it came back and looked at all my shows, all the shows that we've done in the past, and came back with a really great subject called The Hidden Cost of Cheap Cleaning. Now, as you know, on Jancast, we don't really promote Bullen products in general, so this is not, specific to anything we offer. It's more generic. But as you know, we make everything from dog shampoo to aircraft cleaner. So cheap is not our business model. So I kind of like this whole subject. And the interesting thing is kind of digging into it, and my AI co-host will go into more detail. But why is there so much emphasis on the cost of the chemical product when the labor represents way more, 50 to 70% of the total cleaning cost, as compared to the cost of the chemical itself is 10%. And if you choose a cheaper chemical just because you think you're going to save money, does that really save money? It's kind of the illusion of savings. So if something costs normally $12 a gallon and you can get it for $8, you think you're saving money. But did you save really $4? Because now maybe you have to do multiple cleaning steps and things like that. So choosing the least expensive chemical product is definitely not the way to go. Obviously, there's advances in concentration and things like that, delivery systems and all that would help maybe bring the cost down a little bit. But it's more about, is your chemical product going to make the job easier from a labor standpoint? So let's pass it off now to my AI co-host to discuss this in more detail and cover the subject of the hidden cost of cheap cleaning. Thanks very much for tuning in.
You've seen it 100 times, right? You're faced with a choice, and one option is just cheaper. It's so tempting. In the cleaning industry, this happens every single day. But what if picking that cheaper option, the one that seems like a smart, easy win, is actually a trap? Let's dive into that, because the real answer is, well, not what you'd expect. This right here, this is the whole game. It sounds completely backward, I know. How can cheap be expensive? But as we're about to see, the price on the jug is only a tiny piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. This one idea is going to flip the script on how you think about cost. All right, so let's start at the beginning. It all starts with what looks like a really smart move, the illusion of an upfront saving. And honestly, it's such an easy trap to fall into. I mean, look at this. The decision seems like a total no-brainer. You're the one in charge of the budget, and you see product B. It's $4 a gallon cheaper. You multiply that by, say, a few hundred gallons over the year, and wow, you look like a hero. You just saved the company money. On paper, it's the right call. But this is exactly where the problem begins. And this is why. Take a look at this chart. That gallon price you were so focused on, it's buried in that tiny little 10% slice for the actual product. The real monster in the budget, the biggest expense by a country mile, is that massive 60% that goes to labor. So here's the real question. When you make a decision to save a little bit on that tiny 10%, what kind of chaos are you unleashing on the giant 60%? So let's zoom in on that big piece of the pie, labor. Because this is where the true cost of that cheap product really, really starts to hurt. It's just simple cause and effect, isn't it? If a product is weak, you have to scrub harder. You might have to make a second pass. It just doesn't work as well. So the person using it isn't just working harder, they're working longer. And in any business, time is money. Every single one of those extra minutes is a direct hit to your bottom line. Think about this for a second. 3 minutes. It doesn't sound like much, does it? But let's play this out. Let's say you've got a building with 50 restrooms, and they each get cleaned twice a day. At 3 extra minutes per cleaning, That's 300 minutes. That's 5 hours of wasted labor every single day. Over a year, that's over 1,800 hours of paid time that is just evaporated, all because of a choice to save a few bucks on a gallon of cleaner. It's staggering. But believe me, it doesn't just stop with wasted time. Oh no. Choosing the wrong product sets off a chain reaction, a whole cascade of negative consequences that can ripple through your entire operation. You know how it is. It's human nature. If something feels weak, what do? You add a little extra. That glug glug sound you hear is the sound of your savings literally going down the drain. Now your cost per use is through the roof, probably even higher than the expensive product. And on top of that, you're creating brand new problems like sticky residue and even safety issues. And folks, this is where the costs get really scary. We're not just talking about labor anymore. We're talking about big ticket items. Think about the floor in your main lobby. That beautiful shine is the first impression people get. A cheap, harsh chemical can slowly eat away at that finish, leaving it dull and hazy. And suddenly, a refinishing job you thought was years away is now an urgent, expensive problem. Or think about a pricey piece of equipment like a carpet extractor. Its motor can literally burn out from all the excess foam a cheap chemical creates. That's not a supply cost. That's a capital expense. That cheap chemical is directly attacking your most valuable assets. And just when you thought it couldn't get worse, there's another layer to this whole mess: risk. If a manufacturer is cutting corners on the formula to drop the price, what else are they cutting corners on? Is the safety documentation up to date? Are the labels correct? Suddenly, that cheap product could be exposing your whole organization to some serious liability. So this brings up a really big question, doesn't it? If the math is so clear and the risks are so high, why does this keep happening? Why does cheap still win the argument so often? Let's just let that sit there for a second. It's a huge disconnect between what seems logical and what actually happens in the real world. And the answer, you'll find, is less about spreadsheets and more about psychology. And here's the breakdown. The saving you see on a purchase order is a hard number. It's concrete. You can circle it in red and show your boss. It's an easy win. But that slow, creeping increase in labor costs, that's way harder to see. It gets buried across a dozen different budget lines. It's almost impossible to trace it back to that one product choice you made months ago. So you've got this perfect storm of short-term budget pressure and the fact that one cost is visible while the other is hidden. Okay, so enough about the problem. Let's talk about the solution. Because there is a better way. The smartest, most efficient companies out there have already figured this out. They've totally shifted the conversation from price to value. This right here, this is the playbook for getting it right. It's about being strategic. First, you change the metric. Forget cost per gallon. You need to know your cost per use. What does it actually cost to get the job done? Second, you have to put a dollar value on saving time. And then, and this is so important, you standardize and you train. You make sure that great products you're investing in are actually used the right way to get you the results you're paying for. So, the real takeaway here is that success isn't about hunting for the lowest price tag. It's about building a partnership. It's about working with people who can educate you, who can explain the total value, and who can back up everything they say with hard data. And this is the thought I really want to leave you with. Just by changing that one question, you change everything. It forces you to stop thinking about a single purchase and start thinking about a long-term strategy. It makes you consider all those hidden costs we've just talked about. So the next time you're looking at a price tag, ask this question instead. The answer might just save you a fortune.